in a dark room with just the light coming from our monitors, and we can be seen, and it will definitely be good enough for a quick call, but do expect grain to the image in the background, with natural light coming in through the window, and we are initially overexposed down the one side of our face, which I kind of expected. We did experience the autofocus kicking in and knocking us out of focus, but as it refocused, the auto exposure kicked in too, and this removed a lot of the glow down the side of our face and produced a much better image, although it is still a little dark. But do be careful with that autofocus because it does have a tendency to keep recalibrating itself. You can manually configure the exposure and switch to manual focus in OBS to prevent it from focus hunting using a small ring light in front of us, and it's a pretty crisp image that we're getting, which I'm pleased with. When we move further away, then the auto exposure brightens things up, and it looks as though we are getting the full 30 frames per second in the 4K resolution. Switching this to 1080p, and now we have 60 frames per second, which is a noticeable difference. It does seem as though the autofocus struggles a little when we are a distance away, with us looking quite blurry on occasion, and by default we have this huge 95-degree field of view, so loads of your background will be on display. Using a pair of ring lights in front of us, and the auto exposure does a good job in this scenario, and we are still looking pretty crisp. When we move around, it seems as though the autofocus wants to kick in. It does have a little think about it, but it sticks with what it's already focused on, which is good. There is some detectable noise in the background, but it shouldn't really be an issue unless you're having a call with someone that's pretty nosy and wants to have a look at what you've got behind you. If you move out of the frame, then the auto exposure will kick in and make everything really bright, and when you come back, it will take a few seconds, but it will readjust itself. Switching on some backlights behind us while still using the ring lights in front, and this doesn't bring any issues for us. There is a little change in saturation on our face, but nothing major, and this was the case with various different colours, so you shouldn't really have an issue if you do have those lights behind you. Focusing on a small object works fine until around 6 inches away. Any closer than that and it just doesn't adjust the focus with the automatic settings. You can manually configure the focus in the Ankerwork software, which we will show you shortly. Removing a green screen in OBS, and this performed pretty well. Some pixelation on my desk, but this can be removed by playing with the sliders in OBS. This is a microphone test of the Ankerwork C310 Webcam. This is being recorded in OBS, and this is the kind of audio you can expect. This is an audio recording using Zoom, using the 360-degree pickup mode. This is an audio recording in Zoom using the 90-degree pickup mode. Installing the Ankerwork software is where you'll find additional controls for the webcam, but some of these options will need to be played around with so you can get the better results. The autofocus is a little erratic. Sometimes it focuses quite quickly and other times it does struggle, so it's very hit or miss. You can manually configure this, but who really has time for that? The face focus is a welcome addition, so you know that if you are in the shot, then that's what it's going to try and focus on. The exposure smoothing is quite a nice feature where you can use this box to get an average brightness, and the exposure will adjust depending on where you've selected this box in the frame. The auto exposure really doesn't help us if we have lighting coming in from outside, as it makes us look amazingly washed out, so manually configuring this in the software is highly recommended. Face exposure is useful too, as it allows you to have additional fine-tuning control over how the image looks. The HDR setting can only be used in the 1080p mode, and when using this, I found that once again it was pretty erratic for the brightness levels, as it was constantly changing and there is a serious loss in quality compared to when it's not been enabled. The usual settings like white balance and brightness can be adjusted within the software by using the sliders, and that huge 98-degree field of view can be adjusted with the option of 65 or 78 degrees, which I imagine would be beneficial for those video calls where you don't want too much of your surroundings exposed. There's also the solo frame option, where the field of view gets closed up and it attempts to keep your face in the frame, and it does a pretty good job at trying to track us. Resolution and frame rates can be changed in here too, and a toggle for switching between general or lossless image quality, and at first glance I couldn't really see too much in the way of image difference. We can switch from the usual horizontal webcam view to vertical mode in the Ankerwork software, but this will limit you to 1080p and 30 frames per second. Pickup modes for the microphone can also be changed, as well as enabling the noise reduction if you have a noisy background environment. This is a microphone test without the AI enabled. This is the same audio test with AI enabled.